Have you ever wondered how dance and intimacy could be two sides of the same coin? Or how exploring your emotions could actually lead you to a deeper sense of pleasure? In today's episode, Chloe from Feral Grace is on, and we are diving into the unexpected ways that movement, sensuality, and emotional release can intersect. We'll talk about how dance can become a doorway for self-expression, how our bodies hold on to old stories and pain, and why unlocking different types of orgasms might just be the key to reconnecting to ourselves. This conversation is a journey from the raw power of anger to the gentle rhythms of rest, and from heartbreak to healing. Get ready to discover new ways of loving your body, trusting your feelings, and finding pleasure in places that you might not expect. If you're new here, you're listening to the How We Get Through podcast, a place for you to feel connected through deep and meaningful conversations with healers from all over the world. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and founder and CEO of the How We Get Through app, and my mission is to bring you affordable and diverse therapy resources to help you get through the hard stuff, all in one place and at your own pace. Welcome to the How We Get Through community. Welcome back to the How We Get Through podcast. We have Feral Grace on the show today. You look so good.
Thank you so much. I'm feeling good.
Good. It's 7 a.m. here and you are in the UK, right?
I am indeed, yeah.
So it's 3?
It's 3 o'clock my time, yeah.
Yeah, you're looking fresh.
I've been up since 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Well, I got my coffee, and you guys, I don't even know what we're going to talk about today, but I'm very, very excited for everyone to hear this. So, Feral Grace, please let us know. So you are a love, intimacy, and relationship coach.
Yes.
How did you get here? What led you to that?
Yeah, it was funny because we were chatting just before the show, and really, you can't really get into healing unless you haven't experienced heartbreak. And if you haven't experienced heartbreak, then I don't know. I think my life experience, as well as all my trainings, it's the life experience that qualifies me to hold people in amazing space. Yeah,
oh, that's so true. Like you've been to the depths so you can hold the deeper parts of people.
Yeah, everyone's kind of like, oh, what's your classic client? I'm like, heartbreak. Life shattered me. I broke. I worked out how, like the grace part of Feral Grace, like, yeah, I've always been wild. I'll talk about that in a minute in the show. But I've always been wild. I've always been a seeker. I've always been a healer. But really when life properly shattered me, like there's childhood trauma, which you kind of have to work out how to solve and hold. And then there's the adult trauma that really has you on your knees. She's nodding.
Yes.
She's nodding like.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm like a map maker. So like when something arrives in my world, I'm like, how am I expanding? How am I holding my pain? How am I transforming it into pleasure? How am I, doing this life thing? So I collect all these tools and I put them in my tool bag, and then that becomes something that once I know is effective with me, I'll always try something first. Then I can offer it into the spaces that I hold. So about 5 years ago, my life just literally fell apart, and my heart broke, and there was a couple of things left. My kids were left, music was left, my forever partner, music, because I'm a dancer, and I was left, and I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this? And I was joking around with a friend, and I was like, I'm looking for something. And she was like, what are you looking for? I was like, I don't know. I haven't found it. It's got to be cutting edge. It's got to be, a vibe. And I found love, sex and relationship training. My background is a dance movement psychotherapist. I'm an ecstatic dance teacher.
Wow.
So dance rules have always held me. That's how I really transformed a lot of the frozen patterns from my childhood. That was my edge. And then I found like embodiment work. I found the nuts and bolts of how to drop myself into my nervous system and alchemize the pain points. Alchemize the pain points.
Love that.
Radical.
Yes.
Yeah, love that, because I think talking therapy has such an important place, but the nervous system holds so much beyond the story. And once you drop in there, the change becomes very fluid in your world. Once you go into your nervous system, I'm like a geek. I'm like dropping into the soma, and I'll use my body to scan my client, and I'll be picking stuff up. And once we get to the nut of like what do we need to crack open in order to love this piece home, that's when you've felt that, then you just behave different. Then the triggers that used to come along, and you're like, oh, I just didn't shout at that person.
Yeah.
Or I didn't feel the trigger, or amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you elaborate when you connect with someone else's body? Does that feel like an energetic connection? And then what do you feel in your body? Like, do you feel tension? Do you feel heat, cold? What is that experience like for you?
Yeah, all of the above, really. I've been holding space for people for over 20 years. So when you've transformed a lot in your own body, it's easier to work with other people. And please be careful who you choose to work with, because there's a lot of very new people out there. And if you've got a lot that you're bringing, work with someone experienced. So yeah, what will I do? I'll be tuning into the person, and I'll be using words to find out what their landscape is like, but I'll be noticing stuff the whole time. So I'm very attuned physically to the person. I'll be looking for those little movements, but there'll also be stuff that holds in my own body that will be showing me stuff about them. So it will be like, there's a limbic resonance. So that's a posh word for the soma, the energetic connection between, say, my body and yours right now. And I'm very polite, so I won't tune in unless someone's invited me to hold their space.
You can if you want, if you wanted to do it online, yeah.
So, for example, one client that I was working with, we were talking, but it was like, oh, wow, I have deep sadness in my heart all of a sudden. So that would be a clue that at some point we'll be going there to try and lighten or transform that load. Or it might be like, my solar plexus will get really tight within the conversation when they're talking about a certain topic. So at some point I'll be like, okay, let's go into a bit of a relaxed state. Let's head down to the solar plexus. What does the solar plexus want to say? And it's amazing what comes through.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you talked about dance, but when you're talking, I'm like, you are very connected to your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool. Did you feel like connected to your body through childhood, or was there a disconnection for you that led to this, coming back to it in a sense?
Both, I think. So I grew up, the first 5 years of my life, I was in quite deep countryside. So that's never left me. And I've ended up in a deep countryside now. But there was moments in my childhood, I had very disturbed attachment. So there was moments in my childhood which were filled with quite a lot of pain, which created quite a lot of loneliness. And my parents' generation didn't really have the words. Like, we've got trauma language now. We've got attachment frameworks. We've got psychology and psychotherapy and all the things and more. They didn't really have the words for it. So I ended up kind of pretty much self-medicating at 17 with the stuff that teenagers do. I was good at that. And then I found dance floors, and I started to dance, all the things that I never got to express, all the missing of my mother, all the missing of my father, all those moments where really it was frozen. If you're going to use like fight, flight, freeze or fawn, I had a lot of freeze in my system. I wrote about it in a chapter actually that got published. So I started to dance my way home, and dance floors was the one place that could hold everything that I was feeling.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I kind of wanted to dance with you on the show. I was like tuning in. I was like, this woman, she knows.
I do. Yes. I was like, do I talk about myself right now? Yes. I feel the same exact way. Like, I miss it because, you know, when you're younger, you can find that easily. You can go out and do that. And now that I'm like older, I'm like, oh, I just want to move my body. And I'm a good dancer. Do you know what I mean? When you know when you're a good dancer and I do think it's part of sensuality for me in a way too, to move my body and feel like a goddess.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We should go dancing.
We should go dancing. We should go dancing.
We'd have a great time.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of what I talk about, because today there's a lot of suffering, but people are very much aware of how they look from the outside. So a lot of my work with intimacy and women struggling to feel their bodies, well, it might be what's stored in their body. And it also is this culture of being seen from the outside. When you move from the inside, which is what you just described, I'm a good dancer. I feel like a goddess. That's moving from the inside. That's lit from the inside. And that is what's magnetic. Like, you know, when I'm moving from that place, nothing else exists.
Yeah. Yes. I don't care. I don't care about anybody. Give me a stage and I will be fine. Or in the middle of the dance floor. Well, that's fine. But
yeah.
It's that non-judgment space, I think, to really be free from on the dance floor. And I think it's hard work to get there if you have a lot of other stuff around that. But for me, it's always been a place of like, this is something I can easy go into.
Yeah, nice.
You know?
Nice. Yeah, exactly. And I think I found that place, but also there's a workshop I'm going to hold soon, which is this moving from the inside place, because when in today's world we have a lot of tech, nothing wrong with that, but it takes us away from our physical body. So to have a dance space where you can practice surrender to the body, you know, my beautiful friend, late teacher, Gabrielle Ross, she was like, oh, triskeia. I was like, what's that? She was like, it's when your head's doing one thing and your heart's doing something else and your body's doing something else. 3 different directions you're headed in. And we don't want that. We want us all in the same place, which is where dance takes you to. So your head, your heart, your body, your soul, your libido, your eros, your connection to everything. Like that's that feeling you're talking about. That's what we want for people.
Yes.
And at that level of surrender, it is very similar to making love, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But sometimes with myself.
Yeah. One of the most important partners you have.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She's great.
Yeah. She knows. She knows where and when and how.
She's very experienced. Yeah.
Don't speed up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just there.
Oh my God, I love it. Yes, right there.
Just right there.
But talk a little bit more about that connection to intimacy in dance. Like, what can you kind of break that down? How are they connected?
Yeah, it's very difficult to dance when you dance for yourself without feeling your sexuality. So a decade into serious amounts of dancing, I was always a very sexual, sensual person. That never left me. That was the part of me that stayed intact. Yeah.
God bless her. That part.
Really shameless in all the best ways, you know, like, I don't know. I just wanted to be here. It just felt good. It felt good.
Yeah.
So a decade or 2 into dancing, and there was a lot of sexuality, and it got to this point where I was like, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to explore this? And the light bulb went on. It was like, oh, when I talk to my peers, when I talk to my clients, there's a lot of trauma here. People aren't finding this easy. And that upset me.
Yeah.
You know, the orgasm gap, that upset me. That still upsets me. That's one of my missions.
Still the thing. Yeah.
Wow. And so I started to break it down. It's like, what gets in the way for people? What's stored, you know, bless Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, seminal text. Like, I'd have that in every education program if I could.
Yeah.
With what's stored in women's bodies or people's bodies or all gender bodies. and you start to digest that. They're less scared of their sensations because the trauma isn't going to pop up, or this ability to trust your body and have it be beautiful, no matter what your mother or your father or your culture or your brothers or your schoolmates told you, to know your own beauty from the inside. All the things that are in the way of this intimacy thing with yourself. Really great education physiologically. You know, some women that speak to me, they're just like, so how many different ways are there to come? And I'm like, this, and they're like, which part for that bit then? and where is that on me again? Yeah, just like really, like, you know, education shouldn't be just how not to get pregnant. For me, it would be like, how many pleasurable ways are there to become multi-orgasmic?
I mean, that sounds wonderful. How many orgasms are there?
Just probably endless. Can I name them on the show? Are we going to get banned or like, so no. There's breast.
I mean, maybe, I don't care.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, that's
why we're here.
Yeah, so let's start with the most well-known. There's the clitoral orgasm, which for some women is the easiest to reach, right? Clitoral, G-spot, vaginal canal, uterine, cervical orgasm.
Wow.
Cervical orgasms are kind of akin to like a spiritual experience, because everything goes. Like after one of those, like, they're worth hanging around for. They're worth training your partner, so that's a place that you regularly visit, or yourself. Breast orgasms, third eye orgasms, anal orgasms, if you don't mind the mess, you know, perennial orgasms.
Yeah. How messy is that?
How messy is that? And then also finding the beauty in your emotional world. So when you really tune in, when you're very awake to yourself, there's ecstasy within deep anger, which unfortunately I've had. Yeah, so there's like an anger orgasm. I know someone who had a shame orgasm, because when you really let the full weight of that level of emotion pass through you, and your energetic full body orgasm is awake, that's like got you going, babes.
Wow,
because
that makes a lot of sense.
There's so much chi, right? If you let that amount of chi move through all of your body, you are likely to feel orgasmic.
Wow. And I mean, I think when you're talking about orgasms, I'm thinking of like the aftermath, or like the kind of like a little bit what you just said of like, is there squirting, or is there crying, or is there the emotional release? Like, there's different, I think, allowing women to explore different ways of the aftermath of how it, like, or the tension in your body, or the clenching, or the muscles, and kind of really honoring each one, that they're different, or that they're special or sacred, or what is there for you in that release, you know?
Yeah, and that's where, like, for me, dancing and making love is kind of one and the same. So every time I landed onto a dance floor to move, it would be a different flavor each time. My body would produce something for me to move that I had to explore and find. Very similar to that post-orgasmic or during orgasmic moment where you're like, I found a whole heap of tears suddenly, or the surrender. So there's like an orgasmic season, you know, like spring is like the foreplay or the beginning tingles. Summer, you know, you're hitting the orgasm, you're going there. Autumn's like the little moment afterwards where you drift into whatever that release space is, and then winter you're dropping down to rest until the next wave comes. So if you want to go for another, then you'd enter spring again. It's that cyclical nature to orgasms. So each time, what you find in autumn and winter is to be honored and sacred. And another thing that can come up is, if you don't want to discover what's in autumn post-orgasm, it's really hard to want to have sex with yourself or another, because there's a lot stored there, you know. Maybe you're upset.
I mean, I talk a lot about my anger. And so we were like, anger and sensuality. I was like, yeah, that's it. But I do think you're right. I think on the surface, a lot of women, or even a lot of married women, will say, I don't want to because or I haven't done, the pleasure is focused on the other person and not them. And so there's resentment there. There's anger, there's frustration, there's a lot in between them and the other person. And I think when you can kind of cut that other person out for a second and say, what do I want to feel? Where do I want to go with this? And am I angry? Like, am I resentful? And how do I either turn that into a part of my pleasure or embracing that instead of letting it be kind of this stopper and like a shutdown?
I think we're very, we're not encouraged to feel the full capacity of our hearts. So I've worked in adult psychiatry as a dance movement psychotherapist, and I know what it can look like when people are pushed over the edge, and that's not somewhere where you want to go. And yet at the same time, there's not this flex on our emotions that really most hearts have. You know, like when I was exposed to high levels of my own anger, my heart just started to grow, you know, and I was like, oh, actually, this feels good. This is life force. And I had stuff to feel angry about, you know. It was kind of like for real, right? But I think when you have no confidence in your own emotional capacity, you shut it down, as opposed to sort of like, oh, let's go for a dirty one, right? Like jealousy. Like jealousy, when you get in there, it's like, oh, you know, but like when you really get in there, when you drop into the essential energy of jealousy, it's like, whoa, that is hot. That is so hot.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, I talk about this a lot again, but I read smut books. Like, I started in last October, and that's all I fucking read is just a smut book. And some of the darker romances are violent. There's anger, there's jealousy, there's all of this possession, and I'm like, cannot get enough of it. And it's like changing my DNA. And I'm like, I think it's letting me connect with like these darker feelings and these deeper, especially my own anger. And I think there's something really beautiful about being like claimed by someone in that way, in that like, feral way. And again, like learning to kind of do that for myself. Like, where am I claiming me? Where am I worshiping me? Where am I not letting myself down? Where am I coming to my rescue? Like, there's so many undertones underneath it. People are probably like, you're not learning anything. I'm like, I'm actually learning a lot. This is like self-development for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying is really, it's making all these emotions safe. It's normalizing them. Because when we don't have them be in our lives, where do they go?
In our bodies.
In our bodies, yeah. We'll numb. We don't want to have sex. We don't want to play.
Yeah.
We're not curious. We lose our ability to see the other person, whoever that is, our child or our partner or our best friend or our grandma, whoever it is.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when we're feeling, like I get this experience quite regularly and I'm like, there's something unfelt. And then I'm like kind of bad company until I get on my own. And then I'm like,
there it is.
There it is. There it is. And now I'm okay again. I'm all caught up. And then I'm present to myself and my environment. And then that's beautiful for whoever's around me, because I'm like, wow, who are you now?
Yes. Yeah. When you can be with yourself, you can be with another person.
Yeah.
In that presence. Yeah. Can you walk me through what it was like for you? So you're a dance psychotherapist, and then did you, in your own personal life, did you get married and have children?
Yeah.
And then he left? What happened?
Yeah, we had a massive breakup. And then a process of restorative justice, really, which was really humbling and excruciating. So these days, what I find is there's no right or wrong way to experience heartbreak. But this slamming the door and walking away is really appropriate if there's very abusive behavior. But when it's like just this entanglement of different trauma patterns and trauma bondings and misunderstandings and things that somebody said this, it meant that when you meant this, to take the time to unpick all of that and get a load of tools to sort of go, oh, yeah. So for me, and I mean, Esther Perel is brilliant around this stuff, to talk about just one's own experience rather than what the other person did, to take radical self-responsibility for myself and then be like, from now on, I would conduct myself like this. Or this showed me this whole scenario. I was actually on a dance floor and I was like, okay, so I'm ready to work again. I'm ready to serve again. I was like, putting it out there. And the next year my heart got completely broken, and then like the universe served up this training, and then I was like on this training, and now I'm like holding amazing space and public speaking all over the world. But it was kind of like, if I hadn't had my heart broken, I would have never realized my own shadows, my own patterns that are destructive. I'm a human being. Like, I do this stuff, I fall down and I have to get up again. I have to apologize. And the crunchy bits are probably my biggest learning edges, the stuff that I'm most scared of. But learning to be your own hero, learning to create your own narrative. I'm not a victim to all of it. I'm an active agent in the creation of my life. So when things rock up on my shore, it's like, okay, how are we going to include this?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of including to do.
Did you do that work with him, or that was separate? Like when you talk about
both,
like the reparative.
Both.
Wow.
Some people are up for it and other people aren't. You know. But I did the Vita training with Layla Martin, and that it's sort of 600 hours in, you're like, okay, I got familiar.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
How has either heartbreak or your work impacted you as a mother?
Do you know, I'd love to flip it, Jen. How has being a mother impacted my work?
Oh. Love it. Yes, that feels right.
Because I had all this amazing skill to hold dance floors, and people would be like, I feel so loved. And I was like, you are, that's my magic ingredient. If you're in my space, I love you. I genuinely love you. I love you actually, Jen. Like, and then I went and had kids and I loved them. But the opportunity to use my professional skill base, so attuning to people, attuning to my kids, watching their facial expression, learning how to hold their space, naming their emotions when they came up for them, allowing them to feel all their feelings, but also have a robustness in like, and now what you want to do? So your knee hurts. So your knee hurts, but now what do you want to do? The adventure, the curiosity, the ability to make mess without being scared, their own sensuality. And then when they grow up and then it's like, oh, I'm back in holding space for adults again, but I'm still attuning, I'm still naming emotions, I'm still holding their inner children at times and saying, I'm not scared of small children. They deserve to be at home in your heart. And this compassion of knowing all the tenderness and vulnerability, that I don't have to put on a suit and a tie and pretend to be somebody else. I'm still in life's mess, so I think it kept my heart open. So I came back to work full-time mothering with a very open heart. And so this career break thing for me is a nonsense. It's a life thing.
Wow, that's beautiful. Wow. And how old are your kids now?
They are 11 and 17.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And the importance of parenting. Have you got kids? The importance of parenting.
I have a 4-year-old and 6-year-old.
Okay, great.
That's why I was like, you've done it.
Yeah.
You made it. I'm still wiping butts.
Yeah, it's great. Wiping butts. Let's go there. Like,
Okay.
when I was wiping butts, I was kind of like, wow, like, you are showing your child how sacred their body is. The care with which you wipe a fucking butt.
I'm laughing and I'm crying. I'm like, that is so beautiful and so fucking funny and real.
Yeah.
That reframe feels beautiful.
It's so real. Yeah. Like when the way you hold them when you wrap them in a towel, I'm nearly going to cry, and you pull them out of the bath, that level of care, that's what they will expect in the future from a partner. That's how important our jobs are, to sort of say, stop, it doesn't matter. So we're late. What's up?
Yeah.
I don't care if the teacher says it's 9. Your heart matters more. Let's just slow it down. So really, yeah, it's a life thing.
Yeah.
It ought to be overlapping, and there was a time I was getting out of the shower and I was getting dry, and my son, who was 3 at the time, went, Mum, you missed a bit, and dried this little central line on my back that I couldn't reach. And I thought, I've done a good job, because he knew it mattered. That little central line on my back, he knew it mattered. Yeah, because it does.
Sorry, I'm in tears. Yes. Yeah.
It does matter.
It does. And it, I think it's hard in parenting to see the reciprocal energy coming back, because they're not necessary. That's not their main gig, like, is to give you something, I think, really physical in what you give them. I think they're there to mirror who you are. It's more of like an internal dance with them. And so when you can see the physical or the external thing, it's just this like reminder of like, yeah, you're here with me. We're here together.
Yeah.
And we are doing this thing together, and we're teaching each other what it means to care for each other.
Oh, say that again. We're teaching each other.
I blacked out. What did I say?
We're teaching each other what it means to care for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Nothing more important, right?
Yeah.
If we did that properly, my career wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And so, okay, so this is mothering. How does this kind of transition into relationships? Are you working with women that are wanting to be in a relationship? Are you working with women that are in relationships? D, all the above? C,
yeah,
I guess?
Both. Yeah. They're definitely, like, some women will arrive and they're like, I want a relationship, but I always attract avoidant partners, or I always attract this, or, there was a beautiful woman I worked with last year, and she really wanted a relationship. And then I was in, holding space and dropping into the nervous system and looking at her fears. And she'd lost her husband 3 months into a marriage.
My gosh.
I was like, okay, I'm going to sit with your heart until your heart feels safe enough to trust another human being again, but also to explain to her heart, for her to explain to her own heart with her deep sovereignty, that it might hurt again, but it might be okay. And once we did that bit, happy story, guys, because she's now got a partner.
Oh, yay.
But up to that moment, anyone she dated, she blocked on some level.
Right.
Whether it's like, their hair's too brown, or I'm sure there's women out there going, yeah, I do that. And until I can work with you and work out what other people like, I want a relationship, but what it means to them when you ask them, what does a relationship mean? How do you imagine that happening to you? Well, I imagine that my partner moving in, controlling my life, and us being really poor. No one wants that.
No, thank you. Yeah.
So then we do like all 5 senses, get them involved in reprogramming, giving her a template there where actually relationship means you know, having great sex, going out on dates, like waking up on Sundays and lying in, or having someone funny around on a daily basis. Laughter's a big thing on my list, you know, or someone to go on an adventure with, someone who wants to be outside with me. And once you allow your nervous system or your unconscious to have a relationship mean that, suddenly there's people walking in.
Right.
Yeah. And trust of oneself and boundaries. Like the body will often be like, no, I'm not letting anyone in, because maybe there's a collateral damage there of letting too many people in. And until we tidy up the body and get the body really talking to the sovereign self inside oneself, it's like, okay, look, that's not happening anymore. But decent people, we will date. But schmucks, I talk about bullshit radar. I'm like, how's your bullshit radar?
Yeah.
How's yours, Jen? What's your bullshit radar out of 10?
Oh, 10.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think sometimes I think this comes with age, because I have a lot of clients that are younger, and I'm like, when I was in my 20s, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be loved, like, and I just want to be adored, and like, and I was so broken in that I was like desperate in a lot of ways. And then everybody was getting married and I was like, oh my gosh, like I need this, I need to do this. And I think as you grow older and you get married, you do the kids, whatever, you like almost come back to yourself a little bit in your 20s. And I'm like, let's revisit that girl, because I need her still. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I need her. Oh no.
Need to go for it.
In the spirit of her, in her like freeness, in her like I don't give a shit, in her lust for life. And I need her now in this healed heart that I have. I mean, healing's going to go on forever, but in healing, like I feel whole, and I don't feel like I need something to complete me. I want equality. I want matching energy in a relationship. But it's like, it just feels so different, I think, when you allow yourself to grow and understand and kind of like pull that line of like, this version of me, I've really paid attention to her now. And I'm like not afraid of anything anymore. You know, I'm just like, what's the worst that can happen? Let's go. Let's do it. Like, I want to live, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And she's a huge ally in that, isn't she? Because she jumps in. She's a believer. She's curious. She's playful. She's fun. She's wild. She's out there.
Yes. She's the dancer. Yeah.
She's the dancer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when I have younger kids, and so it's, again, motherhood kind of shifts that a little bit, and you kind of come back to, well, who am I? Or who am I now? Right. And then again, pulling all these past versions of yourself, I think when we try to like cut them out or cut them off, we do ourselves a disservice, because they're so, it's like that Russian doll where there's like a little doll and then a bigger doll. Yeah. That's how it feels right now. And then to really kind of stack them and be aligned is so powerful and has saved me.
Yeah. Yeah, it does save you. For me, I always knew she was still there. I guess she just didn't have airtime, or I didn't get to externalize her. But I knew she was there, you know, because I find everything pretty funny still.
Yes.
But I think positively leaning in and saying, it's time you had more of me again. You know, it's time you got more expression, or some time out, or some time to play. Even if it's after the kids have gone to bed and you go and play in the bath on your own, like, you know, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
What can I ask what your like expression of sensuality and sexuality looks like for you in your life? Because I feel like you're so free in it. Like, how does that actually play out?
Yeah, so I really love Audre Lorde's kind of definition of eros. I find it very resonant. Like, I find life very erotic.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I really do. Like, that's why, like, it's just like, so whether that's sort of like you step outside and the change of temperature, or sometimes, the way the car seat belts on your neck and slides upwards, like, I don't miss those moments. I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
or like just the small stuff, the change in temperature as you step into the shower, or even watching water, like the way waves come up onto a beach and then they just do that little flip. I'm like, you know, so for me, there's an eros that underlies everything. And once you tune into that, it's like life's just sort of like got a vibe. And then
Yeah.
I'm a part of that vibe because I'm a living being and everything's alive, right? And then it's just like, it's, yeah, that's a part of my eros in the everyday, and no one can take that away from me.
Mm. And did that feel like it felt like an easy thing to tune into, or something that you had a desire to tune in innately? Because as you're talking, I was thinking about like sex drives and blah, blah, blah. And I
Yeah,
feel like I'm a deeply sensual person. So when you talk about that, I'm like, oh yeah, I want that. I can do that. I want to tune in that way. But I think for some women, it's like so disconnected. And so, like, can all women do this? I guess is the
absolutely.
question. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I stand for. That's why my job is so important. Um, and I would never give a woman who feels that disconnected some kind of massive piece of homework that would be like, oh, tonight's multi-orgasm night.
Right.
It's when your list is so long that you are so disconnected, when you are so desperately sleep deprived, like the first thing to do is rest. And you won't even be able to do that probably for 3 years because your kid's 18 months old, right? Like, I
Right.
know that, right? But there is a way to look at your context.
Yeah.
Nagowski, who wrote Come As You Are, was big on context. So the woman is often the self-blamer, and she'll be like, it's all my fault, my sex drive has disappeared. It's like, what does your life look like? Just tell me in 5 minutes what your average day looks like. And she never stopped once. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, well, your libido just needs a little bit more relationship with yourself, and maybe that won't happen tomorrow. But maybe next time you hold your mug of tea, just check the temperature between your hands. Just for 2 seconds, or just slowly starting to
Yep.
bring her back to herself, or working out a system in the family so that one less job is done. So she sat down for 60 seconds. So seducing the libido back that way, and until eventually it's like, I really felt to mention this in the show actually, one tune a day, whether you are driving in the car, whether you are like in the shower, getting dressed, tying your shoelaces, making packed lunches, one tune, your favorite tune that makes you feel, like you said, that maybe calls forth that young, free person that you were. I put that tune on, and maybe you'll cry. Maybe, I hope so, because that's also what's in the way. All the tears,
Yeah.
all the tiredness, all the
Yeah.
frustration, all the where's
Sadness.
me. Yeah. But that one tune, I'm sure you see women or men on the school run and they're singing in their cars, you're bringing
Yes.
yourself back to life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we're talking a lot about women, and I just think too how powerful that can be for men
Mm-hmm.
as well, to be connected to the eros, their own sensuality, their own flow, and how much more pleasurable they can have an experience with their partner, or with someone, or with, I mean, the smut books.
Back to the smut
Back
books.
to the smut books. All the men are written by women. So they, of course, they're like emotionally holding space and then throwing them around in the bedroom. Like, they are that perfect kind of balance, which obviously doesn't super exist in the world, because no one can be balanced like that 100% of the time. But I do think, as I have a daughter and a son, it's like, okay, how am I teaching him as well about his own curiosity and his own pleasure and his own sensuality, because there is such a focus on women that we're like, oh, no, like touching yourself is fine, and whatever if you want to like have a couple moments in the bath, like you do your thing, and but it's a two-way street. And how are we teaching men what pleasure is for them and for other people? Like, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a relationship with a man, the amount of stress that most Western males hold around their genitals and their thighs and their pelvis, like when you have the time and the energy, take time to say, like, you don't have to touch me for 30 minutes. I want you to lie back and I'm going to massage that area for you slowly. And 9 out of 10 men will cry as well as get turned on.
Yeah.
9 out of 10
really?
men. Yeah, because the stress and there is shame around all genitals that the Western culture has created for all bodies. And so to take time to just let that area be is an amazing gift that you would be surprised at what results it yields, you know, because the pressure that men hold around this whole thing is immense. Yeah.
I never thought of that because I've always heard trauma stored in the hips, you know, like there's like the pelvic bowl, like even like it just falls there with gravity, like it just settles there. And I just always thought about it for women. I never thought about it for men, which obviously makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's incredible. And if you wanted to then massage that and then go up to the heart and then back down again, like that's the big place of connection that the men really are seeking. And I think men hide their rejection a lot. I think you know, the space for men to feel rejected is quite large, and sometimes there's really good reasons for them to be rejected. There's not enough. And there's other times when it's like, oh, I don't understand that my partner's really exhausted and she's been looking after kids all day, or she's been at work all day, or she cycled a marathon yesterday. That when they come forward with this expression of love within their sexuality and they don't get reciprocated, that needs talking about, so that it doesn't go into the stack of male rejection that's inside that body.
Yeah. Do you work with partners as well, or just women?
I work one-on-one, so occasionally I will work with two separate individuals that are in a relationship with each other.
Got it.
Generally, whoever gets to me first gets to keep me.
Yeah.
So generally, I keep it that simple, and then I would refer out for somebody really good to work with the other person within the relationship. But it is possible. Yeah.
So what is somebody? Sorry, let me take a sip of coffee. Let me get it right. Can you walk through what it's like to do a one-on-one session with you? Is there a certain like framework, or what are people experiencing to come see you?
Yeah.
That's two different questions.
It's two different questions. Yeah. Question stacking, isn't it? That's what we call it in the business. Oh, I just stacked on you.
I'll remember the second one.
It's 7:50. She's doing so well.
Thank you for your love. I received that.
Right. So I've got a lot of tools in my toolbox, so I can bespoke most of the processes that I know to be with the person in front of me without kind of getting, you know, like we have to follow a process. I'm going to be following your body. That's what I'm interested in. I'm like a body whisperer. You know, I'll be listening to what's going on, and then I'll be like, now we're going here. And that's why it's effective. But I'll work, which is what I love about coaching as an umbrella term, I'll work with what your core desire is. So if your core desire was, I would like to meet an emotionally available partner and have lots of fun and intimacy, I'd be working with that. And very quickly, so that's the initial flame. Or I want to be self-expressed and I want to use my voice in the world and not be scared to exist as a female with beautiful sensuality and as many relationships as I want. Whatever it is, that's there. And then I will discover through processes with you of what's in the way of you having that. Like why are you scared to use your voice? And quite quickly, all that content will bubble up and we will digest it so that the fear of using your voice is no longer there. Or I want an emotionally available partner, and then it's like, okay, so let's imagine that they just sat down next to you and you see the person go, and I'm like, how about we find out what the shoulder thinks is going to happen?
Yes. He's too close. Yeah.
Exactly. And then what happens when he's too close? And it's like, and so the body's carrying the story, and actually what we want to say, okay, like we've got our boundaries sorted. Let's walk our body through why boundaries are important. How can we automatically have them? What type of boundary can my body expect from any given environment that knows that the next person I meet, we're going to go at a pace that suits me?
And so you don't have to be afraid of like this deep intimacy that's going to swallow you whole right away.
Yeah. And within the relationship world right now, there's a lot of people that I support that are questioning, what is it that I want? So instead of maybe a classical heteronormative paradigm, can't believe I managed to say that without tripping over my tongue.
You did great.
The classic heteronormative paradigm. That actually it's like, this thing, when will we be exclusive? What do we want to move in with each other? Well, actually, probably not. Like, just really defining for them what feels good, which is lands people in more success, and the pace of things slows down so that each person becomes aware of what they want, rather than so we have to get married and we have to move in and we have to have 2 kids and a car. Like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to go traveling.
Yeah.
Separately. Or together. Yeah. Just question things a little bit more. All the conditioning. I'm really into deconstructing the conditioning so that you find out what you want and you have the power to negotiate it. So Feral Grace's kind of meta project is self-leadership. And self-leadership is so amazing because it's like, what do I want to have happen in my life? Who do I want to be with? What's important to me? And why do I find some of that difficult to make happen? And why do I find some bits really easy? Well, I'm here to help you with the hard bit. Because it'll be inside you somewhere and we'll just unlock it and then it's going to happen.
Yeah. I love that. Real quickly, I just think there's 2 waves. Well, maybe not. I don't know. The way I see it, the wave that I'm in is like, the programming was like to get married, have kids, do your thing. And now you're like, what happened to me? And then I think this younger wave is, you don't need a man. You can do everything on your own. So girl boss, do your thing, get your business, buy your house, do your own thing. And then the programming, I think, is that you don't need a partner. But then there's so many women that like, I have everything that I could ever want and I'm so lonely and I want a partner, So I think when we talk about programming or you ask your own programming, I think the question is, where is my block to intimacy with myself and with someone else? Because we are here to be in relationships with other people. That doesn't mean you're here to be married, but you're here to explore each other. You're here to experience each other. And if we're not doing that, if there's some block there, then I think that's something to be curious about and for sure to work with you on, because it is the body. It is the unconscious. It's we can talk about it all day, but it's a felt sense that needs to be worked through.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm glad you said felt sense. So important, felt sense. Yeah, and it's a bit like if you think you're healed, go home for Christmas.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so similar, you can be single, but you get into a relationship and a whole different level of content comes up. Mm-hmm. And it's good to get a hand. It's good to sort out why when this happens, do I think it means this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or I would like to negotiate this not happening, and it seems to always happen. And what am I mimicking there? Where?
Yeah. That's so good. Thank you. I'm so excited. I feel like we can keep chatting, and I want to know so many more things about you. I'm like, okay, tell me everything. And like, what do you do with your body? And let's go dancing.
Yeah. Let's go dancing. Let's talk about what we do and how we do it.
Yes.
And then I'm going to be like, give me your smut list.
Don't worry, girl. I got a list for you. It is in your inbox now.
Right. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where can people find you and work with you?
Go to feralgrace.net.
Mm-hmm.
And there you can have a free honeypot meditation.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm getting that.
Yeah.
Yes. Even my voice got lower.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to carry on hanging out with you.
Yeah.
And that's really a great place to go. And then you can sign up for. I'm going to be doing a dance offering coming up quite soon, probably January by the time I've got it together, where women can and all bodies can dance in their own sitting rooms with me.
Virtual,
you have
right?
To virtual, so you can anywhere in the world we will be dancing together.
I love it.
So if you get on my mailing, you can come join. Jen's going to be there, obviously.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will.
And then I'm on the gram. I'm on Instagram, trying not to get banned and flagged.
Is that happening to you a lot with the pictures or what?
I've had to tone it down. But
wow.
You can't tame me, so it's okay.
That's right.
I'm not bothered. I'm here with me all the time.
Yes. So make sure you follow Feral Grace, feral.grace.
Feral.grace, yeah.
Yeah. And see all the stuff that they don't want you to see.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you can ask me anything. Like you email me, you DM me. I'm open. You can ask me anything. And that's partly why I'm here. I'm the person they're like, I didn't realize I could talk to anyone about this. I'm like, yeah.
Really,
you can. I'm your girl. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll put that in the show notes. And everybody, I hope to see you in January on the live.
Yeah, on that dance floor.
Yeah.
I love you, Jen. Thanks so much.
Love you.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to our show. If this episode was just a taste for you, get ready because Chloe from Feral Grace is coming back on our show to talk all about Tantra, and you won't want to miss it. We'll see you then.